I just wondered if you'd kick off by just quickly telling me who you play and kind of how he fits into the picture, if you wouldn't mind.
The role I play is John Sculley, who is the CEO of Apple, who was with Pepsi, and Steve Jobs brought him in to kind of run the business side and the corporate side of Steve Jobs and all his visions.
And can you tell me a bit about their relationship in the positive sense? He's a very mentoring character to begin with. He's almost a surrogate father, it seems, for Steve.
Well, he's a bit of a father. He is a father figure, which he comes to realize. He's told that early, and there's a difference in age, but he needs somebody to guide him, and Steve does, because he's this visionary with these ideas that just take him, and he can't run a business that way. So John's job is to kind of keep him corralled, pointed in the right direction. He's a bit of a father figure to Steve, and he's brought on to help run the business. But they have this great relationship, father-son, or almost a bromance. They get along great, and I think it was for about 2 years. I mean, they were inseparable, and they cared about each other and trusted each other. And then Sculley had to make a business decision, and they Sculley never got over that. They didn't reconcile anything.
Can I ask you about your preparation for the role? Was it something you needed to read up a lot about, or was everything there in Aaron's rather special script?
I went to YouTube and looked at a lot of Sculley, just to get kind of the personality and the feel. He had done a lot of interviews, and you have this cliche of what a CEO corporate guy is, and then later on I met John, and he didn't play the cliche. He was a good. He wasn't just a numbers cruncher or a guy who hit the delete button. He cared about Steve, and he cared about the company, and he cared about his job and what he was doing, and that he would do it well. But he was up against a tsunami of craziness in Steve Jobs.
And when the opportunity came up to join the project, Jeff, what was it specifically that appealed to you? Was it the character, the Aaron script, working with Danny, all of the above?
Well, having seen it, it's certainly, I was looking forward to seeing what being in a Danny Boyle film would look like. And, he reminds me of Jonathan Demme and Woody Allen and Robert Altman, and, they have a style. And Danny has a style, and I think it fits the story wonderfully. But it's Aaron for me. I mean, I had spent 3 years with him on Newsroom. And one day on Newsroom, he came up and just said, would you like to play Sculley? I hear you're interested. I said, yeah, I would. That was it. So you kind of know going in what you've been with Aaron before, but Aaron's the kind of guy that you commit to the script without reading it. There aren't many of those guys. He's one of them.
Obviously, you know him well, but when you did read the script, were you surprised by, when I say it's theatricality, I don't mean that in a negative sense, but the fact that it feels like a stage play. It's something, it's kinetic, yeah.
Well, Aaron is a former playwright, I'd say still a practicing playwright, because the way he uses words, the speed of the words, it's like verbal car chases, and the overlaps and the movement, it's exciting to watch all those words flying around. And that's kind of his thing. And I love saying his words. I really do. He loves actors. Every part has a beginning, middle, and an end. He really cares about the arc of each character, and you aren't just in there to push the plot or something. He was like that on Newsroom, and he certainly is like that on Jobs.
And obviously you spend your time with Michael, and it does seem a quite remarkable performance. Could I ask you as a fellow actor to wax lyrical, please, about what you thought of Michael? Unless you don't want to.
Well, Michael Fassbender it's a pretty incredible performance. Having been there myself with all those words and doing that on Newsroom, he put in the work required. There's just no easy way around it. It's ditch digging. You've got to memorize all that stuff, and it takes a long time. And we don't have a long time when we're shooting a movie. So that means it's more concentrated. He was working even harder. He did the work. So did Kate. So does Seth. Everybody did the work that's required to get on top of those words that Sorkin gives you so that you can now dance on top of them. And that's the whole trick to Sorkin. And there's nothing you can do to get there except work really hard. Happy to say they did.
Aaron's work often, I think people call it walk and talk, and that's very appropriate to Steve Jobs himself. There's a lot of momentum with him, but your scenes together, apart from the verbals, they're actually quite still. You two aren't moving a lot. I just wondered whether that had been very intentional, whether you talked about that with Aaron or Danny, or your thoughts on it in general.
No, no. If you're walking and talking, you're walking and talking. The scenes with Scully and Jobs are kind of still. They're in one room, and you know, we do have a lot of going down hallways and stuff like that. There's got to be some visual movement. You know, you can't just put 10 people in a room and sit there for 2.5 hours or whatever it is. And so that's I like that movement. You're going somewhere and saying things as you're going there. It's just fun to act. But Scully and Jobs had to. It was a bit okay corral, when the two of them got together. Certainly as the movie goes on. So there are many eye to eye, eyeball to eyeball kind of conversations that really can't take place walking down a hallway. You have to close the door and get at it.
And I know it's never an actor's job to judge a character, but Steve Jobs, so many people have an opinion about him. I just wondered, from what you learned on the film, through your research, etc., what your thoughts were on Steve.
Well, I only know him from Walter's book and from Aaron's script and Michael's performance, so I don't really claim to have known him. But Jobs to me seemed like a guy who was led by his next great idea. And he chased that, and everyone and everything else was in his wake. And he's not the only visionary this world has had. But he didn't make it easy on the people around him to help him, the vision, help it to come true, help it to be realized. He made it difficult simply by the way he was, his personality. And that's unfortunate, because he was a brilliant guy in so many respects.